When you live in constant fear of something happening or something not happening, you soon grow sick of all of this anticipation, of this apprehension, of this feeling of fear, and you just want to create that experience as soon as possible to get it over with. And that's how we claim back control, supposedly. But the thing is, this is both on a physical, psychological level, and more so on an energetic level, on a spiritual level from which you truly create. And the thing is, the more you actually do that, because we do that, we create whatever we fear. We create it physically. Just like when that happens, when you are put in a fearful situation, or when you are in anticipation of something fearful that's going to happen or not going to happen, you get those feelings, you awaken those impulses of indulging in self-destructive habits, in self-sabotaging, or even to some people it's just direct self-harm. And that's their way of taking back control. That's their way of hurting themselves more than anything external could hurt them, and in doing that they feel safe. They enhance their survival. They feel safe towards their external environment. They know, they confirm, they affirm to themselves that they can live through whatever experience might actually happen or not happen. They tell themselves that now we are in control, and no matter what happens, we've already harmed ourselves. We've hurt ourselves more than anything external could hurt us. And like that, we are motivated to live once again. We have the will to continue living through whatever fear we're living through. Because some of us are just so desperate to have whatever control over anything in their life. And by doing that thing to themselves, they are taking back control. And that is due to the intensity of the things, the amount of things that they did not have control over, that we did not have control over at some point, or at this point even. And so we're just desperate to control anything, and what we can't control is what we do to ourselves. And in doing that, we're just indulging in self-harm and in self-destructive habits. The thing is, once we do that, or once we create that fearful thing, once we create it from beyond because we attracted what we fear. Fear is a very intense emotion, one of the most intense emotions, that it could overwhelm all of the other emotions that could be your center of attraction. When you are living in fear, when you are in fear of something, it could overwhelm your feelings of peace, your feelings of safety, your feelings of love, your feelings of gratitude, your feelings of joy. And then you will not be creating out of joy, out of love, but rather out of fear. And then you will create that experience as soon as possible to get it over with, because you are living in it. You are caring too much. You are expecting the worst. This is an egoistic reaction, an egoistic coping mechanism, to expect the worst out of anything, the worst outcome, because if it expects the worst, if anything happens, it's going to be less severe, and it's going to cope easier with it when it happens. It's going to be able to survive through it easier when it actually happens. And so in its expectance of the worst, by expecting the worst outcome, we actually attract the worst outcome. The ego is just not aware. It's just the way the ego works. It's the defense mechanism, because the ego is unaware that we are more than just this 3D physical being, that we are actually higher spiritual beings, and we create from the field of infinite possibilities, and our potential is infinite, and we can change anything miraculously, and we can create whatever we want in this life from the field of infinite potential, not by our effort, not by our control, not by our hard work. And so when that happens, the ego is just stuck thinking that it has to do that. And when we attract the worst case scenario, when we attract those things that we fear most, we just then affirm it, reaffirm it, confirm it to ourselves that life is in fact working against us, and that everything that we fear is actually going to manifest, is going to happen, and so that we were actually right to fear it's happening, that it was meant to happen. we keep confirming those to ourselves, we keep reaffirming such concepts to ourselves by living in fear, and then creating that fear through living in it, and then it actually manifesting, and that those manifestations are going to recreate that loop, to recreate that pattern, to recreate that cycle, that we were in fact right to fear what's going to happen or not happen. And that's the energetic level. But as on the physical level, like I was saying, then we just start trying to desperately claim back control by indulging in self-destructive habits, and then we are only feeding the same emotions, we're only recreating the cycles, we're only living along according to those patterns, to our life patterns, to our ancestral generational patterns that could have been passed to us through our parents. And in doing that, by thinking that you are claiming back control, by thinking that we are actually now in control, that we actually now can live safely through whatever experience, because we already caused much more hurting and pain to ourselves, we are actually going to keep manifesting more harm and more pain and more fear in every experience in our lives. That's how we get stuck by negative emotions. That's how negative emotions have the magnitude, the amount, it has the magnitude to control us. That's how they can control us. All of these negative emotions are able to control us, and that's why worldwide, societies rely very majorly on negative emotions, on portraying the negative to everyone out there, to us, to let us live in fear, to let us live in sadness, to let us live in desperation, from which they can control us much, much better. But we are already doing that to ourselves, because we can claim our power at any point. We can choose to claim our true self, to live our true self, to align with our higher self at any point, rather than we keep creating and manifesting those fearful situations and recreating the loops through continuing to reaffirm them to ourselves. We are actually now taking control by just being. By being present, by trusting who we are, by believing in ourselves, by knowing that we don't have to care, that we're not in the mercy, we're not in mercy, under mercy of anything. We are way higher than this. We are higher dimensional beings. We are source. We are pure conscious energy, the energy of the creation. The creation and the creator cannot be separate, and that means that we are the creators. And since we are the creators, we can create whatever we want. And once you awaken to that truth, once we align, once we choose to align with who we truly are and become aware that we can create whatever we want, only then can we break those cycles of fear, of continuous manifestations of negative situations and experiences in our lives that we do to ourselves by an interrelated psychological energetic pattern, physiological pattern. All of three of them are coming in play here to continue. We are bringing them into one point and create from them similar experiences over and over. But once you awaken to your true self, now you're able, once you become present, always the best lesson I've learned from all of my experiences is to be present. Whenever you're present, I've said it many times before, you're detached from the future, you're detached from your past, you're not regretful of the past, you're not expecting anything from the future, because you're just living in the present, in the moment, in the now. And in this detachment from the future and the past, you're actually detaching from your ego, because the ego lives in the future or in the past or in both, because it feels bad about what happened, and it wants something specific to happen or not to happen in the future. And when you detach from those two aspects, you're detaching from your ego. Eckhart Tolle wrote a whole book about how being present is your path to enlightenment. It's called The Power of Now. Please do yourself a favor and read it. It's very enlightening. And so when you detach from your ego, now you're able to live through your true self, through your true emotions, through your true alignment. And once you open that space up, once you detach from your ego, you have more space for your true self to surface up. You have more space for your higher self to channel its energy through you, rather than living believing that you are just an ego and everything, you have to deal with everything in life by yourself, you have to create everything in your life by yourself. Now you're not living in that fear. Now you are accustoming your body that it is actually being assisted by the universe, that your higher self, that God, that source is assisting you with whatever you choose to do. And that's why you don't have to live in fear of something happening. You don't have to live in fear of something not happening. You don't have to be very attached to the outcome of anything. You don't have to stress over this and that to be a creator, to create them perfectly, but rather they are much better created when you just let them be. And when you open that space up, now your alignment, your resonance, your vibrational frequency is getting higher and higher. And when it rises higher, then you overcome that fear energy. That fear energy is a very low vibration frequency. And when you raise your vibration through your connection to source, through that energy being channeled through you, now you're raising your energy, you're raising your vibes, you're raising your frequency, and you're not controlled, you're not limited by your fears. And that's what happens every time I do this, and I've experienced this so many times before. I would sit very paralyzed by my fear of something, whether happening or not happening, that I wouldn't be able to do anything, that I wouldn't be able to even work against making it happen, or actually work upon making it happen. But the moment I just, go back to myself, the moment I start meditating and going deeper into meditation and living through those higher brainwave states of theta and delta, going deeper and deeper in meditative states, and I stay there and I remain there, and I just decide to intentionally live, to consciously live and be intentional of not feeding my ego's fears and of not feeding my ego thinking that it is the creator of everything that happens in my life, that we are not just a physical empty being, but rather we are pure conscious energy. The more I quiet the ego by being in those calm states of meditation, by being in those detached states of meditation, the less fear has control over me, and then I suddenly am able to actually start working on something, to start believing in something, rather than being so very desperate, not even being able to believe in something happening. Now I'm able to believe it, and the more I continue doing that, and even if when you come from that point of view, when you are letting go of your ego, and then you do one step, you take one step towards whatever you are trying to do, or trying to get away from, or trying to remove from your life. If you take one step, then that one step is worth 100 steps when you are controlled by your ego, when you are under the influence of fear. Because now you're bringing all of this energy into this step. You have so much, you've condensed your energy within you, rather than giving it all away to everything that you are fearing. And in doing that and bringing that energy into this one step, it holds much more value and meaning, and it creates much more than 10 other steps or 100 other steps from which you're doing it out of fear. And in this you'll be creating out of love, out of passion, out of meaning, out of purpose, out of gratitude even, rather than or out of joy, rather than out of fear, out of desperation. So imagine that the contrast between those two energies. Do you think this is going to turn out the same as this? That you being matter, trying to force your way through creating matter, versus you being just pure conscious energy creating matter. Which is going to be better? Which is going to be the same? And that's why we have to be very aware not to feed our fears, not to feed our negative emotions, although it might be very hard. We just have to be consistent with our conscious living, with our intention to live consciously, to not feed the emotions of the ego. And that happens by observing what is the emotions of your ego. through shadow work, of course, but more so, shadow work lets you know what is coming from your ego and what is actually coming to you intuitively. What's being inspired through you versus what is your ego needs. Because the ego is doing everything out of survival, and as long as you are in that survival, as long as you are in that fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, then you will be fearing anything that happened or might not happen in your life. Then you will be under the control of stress, fear, and anxiety, worrying. And you're only going to be creating more of that. You're only going to be creating more problems. You're only going to be creating more fearful experiences. Like I said, the interrelated loop. And so everything is better, everything is best, everything is much more magical and miraculous when you just tune into your higher self, when you're just aware of who you truly are, when you choose to remember who you truly are. Our entire purpose on this life is that we are here to remember that we are one, that we all have the same energy, that we all share the entire energy of creation, which is also the same energy that of the creator, of creating. No, become aware that you have the energy of everything and everyone in existence flowing through you, because we are all just one. That's proven even through modern science, quantum physics, and it's mentioned over and over in ancient civilization teachings. I did a recent video about that, about how separation is the illusion, and how it is the biggest factor that's limiting us, that's breaking us apart, that's getting us further away from who we truly are, from our dreams, from our best versions of life that we could live, from our infinite potential. So be aware, not feed whatever your ego, even observe closely. Why do you do this? Ask yourself, why did I pick up my phone now? Why did I pick up this? Is it that I'm avoiding something? Why did I drop my key? Why did I chose to watch this video? Why did I chose to read this book? Why did I choose to go for a run? Why did I choose to go out with my friends? Why did I call that person to what is it? Is it coming from a place of from a high frequency, from a high vibe emotion, or is it coming from a low vibe emotion? Is it coming out from fear? Is it coming from desperation? Is it coming from sadness? Is it coming from loneliness? Is it coming because you are feeling that you're stuck in life and you just want to avoid that concept? And all of these things, all of those low vibe frequencies are actually your ego work. And the less you feed them, the less you act upon them, the more you are tuning to your higher self, and the more you are straying away from all of those negative emotions. So let's live consciously and intentionally, you lovely infinite beings. Thank you for tuning in to another video by AF's Conscious Frequency. If you learned something, if you enjoy my videos, please don't forget to like, subscribe, because it helps the video find its way to many others who might actually need it.